Hello again from Serendipity Forge. I'm Robert Wood, lead smith. Got another video for you today, and it has been a rough day, a long day. Here in North Carolina, our bipolar weather has decided to now be, well, this morning we had lows in the 20s, and the quench tub was frozen in the forge, but it didn't take long for that to thaw out. Started before daylight. Handled a bunch of knives for the upcoming show, but as a matter of fact, this is the knife from the last video. Don't know if it's going to focus. Focus, maybe a little bit. Let's see. I apologize for the lighting in here. I just left it as forged finish. Those are Wingate wood handles. And this is the one from the video before that. Still left quite a bit of the forged finish on it. And those handles are rosewood. But today, I didn't do blades. Can't do knives all the time. I had a customer request a special hook to hang a sword. And he wanted the fleur-de-lis on the hook. And this is what we came up with. Again, the lighting is not great for this, but it'll do. So I had to make a pair of those. Never made them before. Staggered through it. Got it done. That's what our video is today. Give it a watch and I hope you enjoy. And if you do, be sure and like and subscribe. Leave us a comment in the comment section. If you've got some ideas for future content, fire away. I'd love to hear it. Here we go. Well, here we go. Up at the forge. Get our tools and materials together. Let's see, what have we got? So here's our starting stock. That is 3/16 by 1. Now I've cut the end off on a 45-degree angle. That's just a little cheat. Just a blunt chisel. A little chasing chisel. Center punch. If you're going to drill a hole, always use the center punch. And my bending jig for the anvil. And that's what we'll be using today. Now watch, I'll be turning that 45-degree angle that I cut over to forge a point. That's just a little quick cheat. And you can use that to forge knife points too, of course, dagger points, things like that. Make sure it stays flat, make sure it stays even. Want to try to keep that point just as symmetrical as I can. There we go, that's looking pretty good. Let's move to the power hammer. That won't do, a little adjusting. I need a cameraman sometimes. So in the power hammer, I have my spring fuller. Spring fuller is used to spread material. I'm going to use it right now to hammer basically a notch, so say, right at the base of that point. got to be careful. If I get too crazy on that hammer, it'll cut that point right off, even with the fullering jig. Just want to knock it in a little bit. Isolate that point. And back to the anvil. Hope you don't get motion sick. Just got to work it back out flat because fullering causes the steel to swell there in the fullered area. Never done one of these before, so this is kind of a experiment. I made one earlier before I did this one, but that was the first one I've ever made. So this is the second attempt. Now here's a cheat. I need the end of that dry so I can mark on it with a Sharpie. Love Sharpie markers, they work great. So I'm just using my torch to dry the water off. Could have just chucked it back in the forge for a second. But I have a habit of overheating things when I do that and burning myself, and I don't feel like being burned today, so. Where's that other hook? There it is. All right, so that's the one I forged earlier. And I'm just going to use it as a sort of a template to draw on my cut lines. Now I'm going to be going to the saw and cutting these lines in with the bandsaw. I could do it with a chisel. Get it hot and chisel the lines in. But like always, I'm pressed for time. I have knives to finish. I have leather work to do. Okay, let's cut it. There we go. Cuts are made. And let's get it warm. All right, so we're going to bend the tip down. Get it out of the way so we can work the side petals on the fleur-de-lis. Got to be gentle with this stuff. Can't work it too cold. If you work it too cold, you'll end up with a cold shut and it'll break. Warm it back up. Just keep gently tapping those side petals around. That's pretty good. Knock the point back down. Even things back up. Not bad. All right. Now I'll admit, the one I was working on just a second ago ended up being a failure. I wasn't happy with the way the end was working out. So I brought us back up to the same point again. Just gonna cool things off and go to the saw. And now I've cut it out. Cut it down to where I want it. Got about 5 inches to make the hook. And let's warm it up. And work on those bottom petals. This is Fiddly work, fiddly work. Aggravating. If I go too far, I know I'm going to booger it up. If I don't go far enough, it won't look right. So that's not so bad. Yeah, I think I can live with that. So we'll get our blunt chisel and we'll put in our lines across. Now I got to go over here and look at the other one, make sure I'm doing it right. Yep, one more line. Pretty good, pretty good. Now we've got to chase in the lines going up the center edge of the center pedal. Now yes, I sawed this blank out. Fuss if you want to. Could have chiseled it. Wasn't going to take the time to chisel it. There we go. I believe that's about got that. Now we've got to need to chase in the lines on the side pedals. So we'll get our little chasing chisel out. And just gently chase in those lines. Sorry, my hand's in the way and you can't see, but it is what it is. Okay, so now we'll do the work on the bottom. Pretty good. Now I need to warm this up and butcher in the center pedal in the bottom. And I'll be using a butcher tool, which I forgot to show when I showed my tools. This butcher tool that I'll be using here is just mild steel, just a piece of 3/8 square stock that I'd ground down to a dull butcher. And I'm just using it to set down the steel, isolate the steel so that that center pedal on the bottom of the fleur-de-lis will stand out on its own. Now, like I said, the butcher tool is just mild steel. You can make single use or tools you're going to use just 1 or 2 times out of mild steel, no problem. If I were going to do a run of these, I'd have made it out of spring steel or made it out of some kind of tool steel, but this works fine. Pretty good. Now I just need to chase in those center lines on the center pedal on the bottom. 1, 2, Make sure everything stays even. Yep, pretty good, pretty good. Cool it off. If you can hear dogs barking, they're moving around in the background on this voiceover. Yeah, well, I got a house full of dogs. All right, we'll pop in a center punch mark. Yeah, close, just kind of guesstimate it. Yep, there we go. Take it to the drill press. I won't bore you with the boring of the drill hole. And I'll just drilled a 3/16 hole. Heated it back up. Now I'm using the peen on my cross peen hammer to add a little texture to the center pedal on top. Just adds a little more interest to it. Flatten everything back out. Not bad. Now I'm going to start working on the hook. Going to flare the tip out a little bit and thin it out a little bit. And that's good. And we'll take the cross peen and add a little texture into that flared tip. Just kind of scallop it, make it look a little scalloped. Yep. Now the next thing we're going to do here is a little trick. I've actually got a piece of hickory. I'm going to be forging with that piece of hickory instead of a hammer because I don't want to mar the scallop marks I just knocked in with my cross peen. So the wood won't mar the scallop marks. So I'm just using the wood like a hammer. Handy trick if you need to straighten something or flatten something or dish something and you've got incised lines or some other decoration that you don't want to mess up. We get out our bending jig. Get it good and warm and whip it around. Yep, there we go. It looks pretty good. Let's get the other hook and make sure. Yep, put them together back to back. Just have a look, make sure they pretty close to match. Need to tweak it a little bit. Tweak it a little bit. Just a hair. Really good, pretty good. Not exactly alike, but they didn't come off of an assembly line either. So that's handmade for you. Yep, that'll do just fine. I'm really happy with that. Well, there we go. Hopefully that wasn't too painful to watch. Really did kind of enjoy this project. And there are those out there that would say I cheated by using the saw. Tomato, tomato. If you think it's cheating, fine. Don't use a saw. Use a chisel. I could have used a chisel, but I didn't because time is money, and I'm not going to stick that kind of charge on my customer just for the sake of being traditional unless he asks for traditional. Ask for traditional, okay, we'll get out the chisel. Otherwise, we're going to forge it. We're going to use a few modern methods along with some age-old methods, and we'll make the project work. And there's our two finished up. Once again, I apologize for the lighting. Not a bad match. I think it'll do good. Once again, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said before, like and subscribe. Leave us a comment in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you. Have a blessed night.